a very special episode. I am joined by Jeremy and Matthew Ninaber. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Amazing.
Yeah, so A Knight's War. How does it feel to be done with it and be on this process of the movie journey where you get to talk about it? And
oh man, I hope we're not done with it. The whole purpose of this movie was to set up a universe, man. I hope it's not done. It feels really great. Reading the reviews that are coming in already have been very favorable, and it's been a dream of ours to make this medieval world for a very, very long time. So it's kind of surreal that we actually did it. I saw a friend from 20 years ago. He's like, "Hey man, you were talking about doing this 20 years ago, and here you are, you did it." That's so crazy. So it's it always takes longer to actually make these things happen, but I'm so happy that we finally went out there and built some castles and made it happen. So
yeah, this is it's a very ambitious movie. So being that you are indie filmmakers, I feel like most people would be like, yeah, that sounds cool, but I don't think we can do all that with the sets and costuming and all that. So was that difficult for you to go no, we are making this movie no matter what?
it was really intense. The first thing we did is we started with how'd you say it? We knew the armor was going to be difficult. We knew the sets were going to be difficult. We knew creating the witches and the villains were going to be difficult. So we just started with the armor. And I remember the first version of the armor, we actually carved it out of foam. And I worked for 3 weeks on doing a cosplay armor thing from Dota. And I showed Jeremy it. I'm like, "What do you think?" He's like, "I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty bad."
Trying to find a way. I'm like, okay, well maybe with the lighting, because you can get on the set, you can, if you film it a certain way and it's dark, maybe it will pop a bit different. So we tried accenting the colors on it and making it look aged. But
there was a version of this movie that looked really, really bad.
Just the foam warrior running around.
So early on, we knew that there were no cutting corners. We weren't going to be able to fake it. So we're going to have to get real armor. We're going to have to build real sets. And that became our mantra really early on, is how much can we do for real? So in a lot of movies, they use plastic swords. They use fake chainmail. They do a lot of green screen. We did a little bit of green screen, but we decided let's try to build or do everything in camera and make it as legit as possible. So the armor that Jeremy ended up wearing was 100 pounds, which was, I remember the first day we did the photo shoot and he's wearing it and he's just like, "Hey," after 30 minutes, he's like, "I don't think."
I didn't think I could do a full day, let alone a movie in that. And I said, okay, how can we make the foam armor look better? And I'm like, I don't know if I can wear this for an entire film, because we had to hike out to every location we were going to go film at, and some of the hikes were a couple kilometers. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to literally be walking out wearing this armor. And yeah, it was 40 minutes the first shoot
and
we did.
It's not just walking. Some of these locations you had to climb up a cliff, and then you had to climb down a ravine, and then crews all falling down on this ice wall trying to get to one of the caverns. And then you got knights. You got Jeremy and Kristen in full armor, just clink, clank, clank, with their sword and everything. So
yeah, we were rock climbing to set. It was intense.
So because we wanted to go places that we wouldn't get interrupted. So a lot of this movie was filmed in locations that, yeah, no one would bug us because nobody would go there
in the dead of winter.
So
was that an actual frozen lake you guys were doing the battle scene on?
Yeah,
I was like, this looks very real. I think that's actual cold wind blowing on these guys.
Yeah,
I felt so bad for you.
We lost people on that. They're still gone. We haven't found them. No. The one fight scene, the barbarian is supposed to be fighting Jeremy, and we were free. It was so cold. The armor was just sucking any heat out of them. And I just looked at both Jeremy and Kristen, and icicles are forming on nose.
It was snot just frozen to your nose. It looked so bad.
It was hard, but you guys luckily had a couple weeks of climatization of being out in the winter. But Matt Dashu, who played the barbarian, he just came out and he's only filmed the interior scenes. He hasn't been out in the wilderness for any of this. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be fine. And after a day of filming, he's like, "I'm out." We hadn't got to his fight scene yet. He's just like, I'm done, man. I can't do this. I can't feel anything. And I just looked at him. It looked like frostbite was happening on his face. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, get out of here, get out of here. And so we had one day left, and Jeremy had to teach me the choreography for this barbarian fight scene. And so that day was just a crazy day because, like you talked about, how like the wind just creates like a vortex between the mountains and it just blows you. Like our audio operator, as soon as he put his boom pole up in the air, he would just slowly get blown down this ice lake. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was worth it though. That's a gorgeous scene. Like that little
Yeah,
set piece is
it
awesome.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're fortunate because there's no one out there that during that time because it was so cold. So if we came on a warmer day, we wouldn't be able to get the shots because there'd be too many people there. But because it's so cold, nobody wanted to show up. Like we were minus 24, and then the windshield is 70-kilometer-hour winds. So it put it up like over minus 40, and any exposed skin was just getting frostbitten. It was insane.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So one thing I've noticed, I've watched the movie a couple times now. The movie just looks gorgeous, and I know your cinematographer Brent Tremaine. I've always been curious with the director cinematographer relationship. Are you kind of honing in that look behind the camera? Is that all Brent? Do you bring him examples of like what kind of style you want?
Yeah, Brent and I have a very long relationship with each other. So we go back and forth a lot, and we have a very different personalities, which is, I think, why we get such a great image. Um, so, just backstory: to get a great shot, you need to have the set, you need to have the location, need to have everything the right time. Like everything goes into the image. So the prep work that goes
Right.
in there is crazy. And Jeremy and I, we'd build the sets before we get filming. We worked on all the costumes with the costume designer and all that. But we did a lot of shooting, and the first thing that I did is I went out with Jeremy and we just shot lens after lens after lens after lens, just trying to find out what looks good on the armor. Does it look good with the smoke? Does it look good with firelight? And then we take those images, we give it to Brent, and like, hey Brent, how do we make this even better? And it's kind of like before even going to camera, we just keep going through that iteration until it's just like, okay, I really like what we have. So we ended up on some, was it Zeiss? Oh my gosh, yeah, it
Yeah.
was Zeiss. It was Zeiss photo lenses that were rehoused, and so that's what most of the movie was filmed on with Pro Mist filters. And then we just found that atmosphere smoke was like that was a key to the witch stuff.
Yep.
And then we didn't film past, I think it was 10 a.m. any day, so that we just avoided harsh light. And then in the castle, when we did film over that, we had layers of diffusion over top of the castles just to give it that I don't even know what the look is called, but really I stole it from Willow. In Willow, when they
Yeah.
go into the castle, I'm like, I want to recreate that. And that's what we really kind of worked at. So I don't know if I really answered your question. We have such a small
No, totally.
crew that there's times I'm filming, there's times that like I'm just running around getting shots because I have it in my head, and I'm like, to communicate it just takes too much time. Just because we have so much to get done in the day, I'm like, Brent, I'm going to be coming to this shot. You work on this shot. I'm just going to grab these things real quick, and we have such a good relationship that way. But he has such a technical mindset, and just knows light so well. And then we just have a really good team that just kind of circle around our weaknesses.
Yeah, so no shooting past 10 a.m.
So a lot of our exteriors, my thing is like we would be up so early, but we wouldn't shoot
Right.
past 10 just so that we can avoid that harsh light. So that's something similar that they did on sets like Revenant. And it gives you the sun is low enough in the atmosphere that's not giving you the ghouly eyes, which is like a key to like really nice stuff. So on Abraham Lake, we would go out there so early, and then it's like, okay, guys, we're done. Sun's coming out,
Yeah.
and
Sun creeps over the mountains and you're done.
we shot on the red Komodo, and like the red for me does not do well with highlights. So if anyone's interested in this, like an Airy does really nice with highlights. I still actually love the red for filming, but you just have to keep it in its sweet spot. And when that sun comes out, you either diffuse it or you go home. And yeah.
Yeah, I recently bought a Sony FX30, and I've been like trying to teach myself, the videography thing. And man, there's so much that goes into it, like the ISO and shutter speed, and like, yeah,
Yeah.
with the harsh lighting. And So, yeah, like people just watch movies and they're like,
That looks
oh,
pretty.
they just point and shoot. It's
Yeah,
like,
not
no,
quite.
so much goes into it.
Yeah.
So, being that this is a horror movie podcast, I gotta ask you guys. Well, Matthew specifically. I mean, Psycho Goreman, one of my favorite movies.
Oh
I,
wow.
I I love it. I rewatched it last night. I forgot just how good it was. I'm like, why has there not been a sequel to that? Would you be game for a sequel?
I would be game for a sequel. The reason there hasn't been a sequel is because the money is not there. So Steven went over and above with the budget that he has. I think they really put everything into this, and to do that again, he called in every favor to make that movie. And so I don't know if he could do that. Like, you can only pull favors so many times, and then after a while people are like, hey man, you gotta start paying for stuff. So I don't think he paid himself for any of the monsters that he put in there. And if you look at all the creatures and the design, it's just the scale of it so big. And why would you want to go backwards? So he wants to keep going bigger with the universe. He doesn't want to do like an apartment Psycho Gorman movie, which I think actually would be very funny if he did. But yeah, it's really coming down to, can he get the budget to go and tell the story that he wants to tell? So. And when he does, I'm there. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean the fan base is definitely there. It's like full blown cult status at this point. Making Psycho Goreman wearing that bodysuit, what was that whole process like?
So the process is it's awful. I'm a texture guy. If something like scratches me the wrong way, I'm totally out. And that suit was the closest thing to hell on earth.
Damn.
It's hot, it's sweaty, and the sweat from every day just keeps getting into it and just turns into like this really gross sponge. And so when you put on the suit, it takes you about 2 hours, 3 hours at the beginning. They get it down. Actually, they get it pretty fast towards the end of getting it on you. But at the beginning, it'd be like 3 hours in the chair. And then the first hour in this suit, you're like, I'm a god. Like, it's so much fun, and you're running around and you feel like you have superpowers. And then all of a sudden that fades and you realize, I'm in this suit for the next 12, 13 hours. And there's nothing I can do. And it just gets sweaty. And you slowly feel yourself dying. And then, yeah, you just kind of disassociate and you kind of wonder why you're on this earth and what the purpose of this whole thing is. So,
So when Jeremy was like, this armor sucks, you're like, dude,
nothing.
I was Psycho Goreman. Suck it
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
No, it's not comparable. That's for sure.
So, and then for every movie since Psycho Gorman, because Steven had my molds, he's like, if you ever want a monster, I'll make you it, but you have to wear it. So, like Death Valley, he made the monster for, and then for A Night's War, he made the monsters for as well. And so, yeah, and I just have to end up wearing suits for all that. So it's kind of
Nice.
like, yeah, I'm very grateful for doing Psycho Gorman because it really opened up my eyes to what you can do practically. And, and then obviously like growing up on like Hellboy and loving what those movies and all the practical effects, and kind of like being able to bring some of those inspirations into my films, because like A Night's War is like, it's a horror movie, but it's not just a horror, like it's a fantasy film as well, and being able to like mash up those genres, I think, is kind of what makes it special and makes it kind of unique. So
Was there anything you took from the set of Psycho Goreman, other than practical effects that you applied to this movie?
oh man, they had so many things. Like, I love watching the gags. Monster goo is something that I live by now. It's kind of like I think it's basically KY jelly, but they don't call it that on set. And if you ever want to make some creature look cool, you just put the slime on it, and
Sure.
it's just a layer that is so cool. And then just watching Steven, how he directed stuff, how he did the practical effects, and like in the order that they did things, was just, it was great. It's like going to film school and just getting educated and not having to pay for it, just having to sit in a little purple suit and watch. So
Yeah. Have you watched Frankie Frico yet?
I haven't watched Frankie Freaky
I
yet.
haven't either.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on my to watch list.
yeah.
Um, so I was surprised to learn that you guys filmed in a violent nature.
Everybody asks.
Okay, okay.
No, but
Sorry.
you can no. What do you want to know? What do you want to know?
No, so I interviewed Rye Barrett, who played
Yeah.
Johnny
Yeah.
In the
And
final?
Johnny's
yeah,
3.0
Oh, okay.
3.0.
or
Okay, and
4.0. I think
yeah,
there's four
Jeremy, you
Johnnies.
were you were the ranger.
Yep.
And cut.
I was stuck looking forward.
Check the gate and gun, please.
You're like, wow, that was
Thanks, are we
cool.
clear?
And Reese Presley took over, and Reese Presley was in Psycho Goreman. So
Yes, he
was Chris
was.
Nash. So I'm
Yeah.
like, there's all this crossover going on. What's
There is.
happening?
So Chris, Chris is the one that put me in the suit for Psycho Gorman, and he's just like, "Hey, I'm working on this movie. Do you want to come and be in it?" I'm like, "Chris, he has a very dark humor to him. He also helped me on Death Valley, and I was just like, whatever you need, man, let's go. Like I'm game." And so we went up and started filming in Violent Nature, and his first version of In Violent Nature was massive. It was massive. It was one shot that would just go 500 meters, and it was so intricate, and it was that over and over. Basically, you would never break away from Johnny, and it would always be his perspective no matter where you went. And so it was
The opening shot was how many pages of dialogue?
yeah, it was with no cuts. And it's one of the biggest sets I've been on. Just like there were so many people, and when I went up there, they're still trying to figure out. I think at the end, he had to really scale back because he shot the whole movie once, and then partway through, if you watch the behind the scenes, I just started having an allergic reaction to something. I don't know what it is
Yeah,
to
I
this
saw that.
day. I have no idea what it was because I can still wear monster stuff. I get glue on me all the time, but
Yeah, you broke up
but my
bad.
face just started swelling up. I ended up in the hospital.
Good?
Yeah,
Yeah? Do you want me to give it one more shift?
yeah.
I'm just like, hey guys, like I
Damn.
can't. I'm out. I'm out. And so I found a guy to replace me
Dashu, who was in Knight's War.
who plays the barbarian, and he went up
Oh.
and before
Whoa.
them he had there was Johnny, who I forget what the guy's name is, but he was a grip who they just put into the suit. So he was Johnny too, and then
Right.
Matt Dashu. Oh, it froze again. Why is it freezing?
Oh shit. I don't know. We can just keep going. Maybe you'll
Oh,
come back.
okay.
Yeah, because we have full
Um,
bars.
Yeah, and so Matt Dasher was Johnny 3, and then Ray was Johnny 4, and so it was just a movie that just kept on chewing through Johnny's. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know there were 3. Have you? So you've watched the documentary that's on YouTube? of
I've
it?
seen it because people have tagged me in it a couple times, so that's all I've seen.
Is it kind of like a bad memory? Like, oh shit.
It's not a bad memory. It's kind of like an unfortunate time where it's just like I was
Yeah.
very excited for a project, but
Yeah.
things just kind of went south. And I think at the end of the day, it's just like they had to do what they needed to do to get the movie done, and that's kind of like the movie business, right?
And we've been in that situation before, right? Like we've had to redo entire movies, like recut people out, and right, it didn't work, so you cut an entire character out of a movie. So
Yeah. So I'm super like Chris, I'm super pumped for him. And like that guy,
Mhm.
anybody else would have just said, "Oh shoot, this isn't working, I give up." He kept on going. That
Mhm.
guy powered through so much and he made it happen. He went up there with I don't even know, like a band of buddies to go make this film that he started off with an army. So like what the resources he started with to the resources he ended with, and he was still able to pull off such an amazing product is very impressive.
And Kristen, actually, one of our witches, she was actually on the production side of that of the final version of
Yeah,
Violent
so
Nature.
she was
Saw that.
the assistant director, and so while we're filming at Night's War, she was telling me how it was going up there in between, because she'd be up there working on that and then coming down and helping us with the Night's War. So it's very cool.
Yeah, sad not to be a part of the final, but
yeah.
So Jeremy, I read that. Are you a jiu-jitsu guy? Did I read that down?
well, so when we were young, our mother, she always wanted us, get our energy out. So she always was putting us into karate
Yeah.
and different mixed martial arts. So I think it was just to keep us occupied. And so I've done a bit of rolling, as you say, at some jiu-jitsu clubs over the years, and did a little bit of Krav Maga. Krav Maga was like probably the least interesting. It's kind of hard to make Krav Maga, actually practical, because it consists around eye gouging and kicking people in the groin. So the jiu-jitsu portion was a lot better. We actually got to train with the 2007 world champ. I'm blanking on his name, but yeah, he was running a shop nearby us here, and he was really good, very talented gym there.
He's not bad. He's not bad. Just world champion.
Oh yeah, they put you through the works. You got to go in there with a lot of humility, otherwise they'll humble you.
Yeah. Did you ever do any sparring with Krav Maga? Like,
So you do like where you wear the headgear and then you got the pads on and stuff like that, but we never did like a non-padded striking. So
right, yeah.
for karate, right? So yeah, I would say very tame. Very tame. I would say hockey is more of the place where we got in the real fights.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I do a bit of boxing myself, and when I first started, I was like, I think I'm gonna be an amateur fighter, man. And after sparring the first few times, I was like, I think that's enough of a taste of like.
I don't like being
ahead.
punched.
So I weigh 230 pounds, and there was a guy at the jiu-jitsu gym. He didn't even weigh 130 pounds, and he was one of the first guys to introduce me to like the first guy I rolled against, and he submitted me 6 times in a row, and I just was so embarrassed. I was like, okay, like. I clearly size doesn't mean anything in this. You got to actually know what you're doing. So that was very humbling for me. I was like, okay, I'm not going anywhere with this.
Yeah, any form of like combat stuff, you have to leave your ego at the door, or you're not gonna make it because you get humbled very quickly.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So did any of that training kind of carry over with the sword fighting on A Night's War?
Yeah. Not so. I wouldn't say the jiu-jitsu portion didn't play so much into this
Doesn't really
movie.
work with armor, but.
Right? Yeah, we were doing.
I just kind of meant like the choreography aspect.
Right. Hey. Well, you know what it was? I would say what we've learned over the years, because we've always tried to put fighting, hand-to-hand fighting in our movies, and so that translating from our previous films, which we did use, jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And learning camera angles and whatnot did translate to this. The real trick was, we had all this choreography we rehearsed months in advance, but we never did it with the full armor suit on.
That was a big learning curve. Like, as we say, it's just like, that's really dumb not to do that. But yeah, we got to a couple of days before filming and we put the armor on and just like, all right, let's go do the choreography. And all of a sudden, half the moves that Jeremy had made up, they couldn't do anymore. With
you just have these big swings overhead and you're just like, oh, my armor doesn't actually allow me to go that high. And so we had to change some of the choreography on the fly. And we did pull a little bit from, previous films and, the jiu-jitsu training from that. But then, some of it is completely a different world for this movie.
Have you guys ever seen the it's like MMA, but they're wearing medieval armor?
Yes.
We watch so many of those. Like,
it's so awesome.
So many. It doesn't look good in a movie because it's a complete brutal, like, it's so crazy.
What's crazy is how they're wearing full suits of armor and their noses are still getting broken. And like just broken like fingers and stuff like that. Like, they're malicious. They go after their joints. I'm just like, goodness, like, how do you go to work the next day?
Something really cool is Avalon's father in this is one of those fighters. So he came, we had
a couple guys on site.
His name is Matt Wilson, and he's a brute. He's the nicest guy ever. But then you see him in fights, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy's terrifying. Just terrifying. Just a mammoth of a man. And like, it's full contact in those suits. So he brought out some of his friends to play the knights so that we didn't have to go rent armor. So like, they had the real get up and everything there, and it's pretty sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know guys like actually train for that. I thought
it's really starting to pick up. Yeah, I've seen a lot more.
I can see why. It's highly entertaining. So do you guys have like a personal favorite scene or moment from the movie, like something you're very proud of whenever you watch it back?
I would say Abraham Lake. Anything where you're outdoors on that ice and the mountains in the background. That was like, those are the worst days of my life, but yet by the end of the day, it was just like, you look back and you're like, oh, thank God we made it. Like, you just don't know how you got through the day.
Yeah, especially because we knew there was a lake out there. We knew there was mountains, but we were kind of just driving to a location hoping for the best, and we got such amazing stuff. And it is when you suffer, whenever you suffer for something and then you get the reward from it, it just feels so good, especially in like the instant gratification world. I think the other moment that was really fun was the first night of filming. We had to build a castle. We had to prove to the company funding this that we could make this look good. And that's the scene where we're both at the fire, this castle behind us, and my son comes out and says, Father, they've come. And that moment for me was it's the first day of filming, and all of a sudden it's like, this is working. Like we can build a castle. The outfits look good, and we just finished painting, and then all of a sudden this light snow just came in and just like grazed the set and just added this other layer, and it was like such a fun scene because I'm acting with my brother, I'm acting with my son, and it's the first day of filming, and it just went flawlessly. Like we learned about fires, and like that. If you watch that scene back, we're crying half the time because the smoke keeps getting in our eyes. We're like, you know what, filming around fires is really difficult. But
we had to start filming around fires because for practical needs, like we had no way to warm people up because we had to hike so far into sets.
So like all the fires that you see are like, hey, we should just put a fire here for a safety, keep people warm thing. So anyway, but those two scenes are pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome. The exterior shots of the castle, is that a miniature?
So those are miniatures that we built.
Nice. Yeah, such a lost art form, miniatures. I mean, it looks great.
It was so much fun, and I think if we get to do a sequel, if we get to do another medieval movie, I want to spend a lot more time with the like miniatures. Like it is so rewarding building those.
Yeah.
And
you learned a lot the first time.
Yeah.
Do you have plans for a sequel to this, or do you have something else in mind?
Yeah.
We have two more we actually wrote after this.
I think so. For this world, we had to write a whole Bible of the lore, and then after we kind of figured out the world that we're building, we kind of asked ourselves, what's our entry point? Like, what's the movie that we can do and do well, instead of trying to like, and there's a battle with 1,000 men, but you see the same two guys running around or something like that. Like where's the story? So this story with Bodhi and Avalon is our entry point, but there's a bigger world. There's more witches, and there's a whole hierarchy of like these gods that like we wanted to get into. And then we wrote another medieval world that is basically kind of like a Monster Hunter vibe. So if we can't continue this, then we're going to go make a different world and start all over again. Or we love the medieval fantasy, the dark fantasy. I think it's such a fun place to play. And we just learned, I think we spent so much time learning on this movie on how to do things. And it would be such a shame to just let go of it, because I think towards the end, we were just getting to such a groove.
Yeah, we finally figuring out, things were clicking, right? We're a well-oiled machine by the end.
And so it's always sad.
Like the armor.
Yeah. Oh, you get in the religion of it. You're just like, okay, like this is how it is. Your body starts, growing accustomed to it. And like at first it took almost like an hour to get everything on. And by the end, it was just flying. It was just like,
well, that's because you guys were using zip ties by the end, because the armor was falling apart. I'd been through so many battles.
I'm surprised it doesn't show up on camera more how many zip ties were holding my suit together, because that suit went through so many stunts. I was getting thrown down like hillsides, doing rope pulls, and it's just like on the fly, pieces are coming off. And so then we're getting like the rivet gun out there, trying to like put it back together on the set. So.
Damn. So did you build that armor or
no
rent it, or
we got our armor from multiple places, and it was just kind of combining pieces. So that was a huge undertaking of, a chest piece from here, a helmet from here.
Sure.
We had stuff that we ordered that was like custom that never came, and then we would put deposits on armor, and then the person says, hey, pay us more, else we're going to sell it because we like it so much. And like it was a crazy undertaking, the armor. And the biggest win for us is there's this place, I'm going to do it, it's called Medieval Depot. I love this place.
Whoa.
I love it. Where was it?
Medieval Collectibles.
Where is it?
Indiana.
So we drove down to Indiana. They opened up their scratch and dent section.
Yeah, we met the owner. He came and talked to us, heard what
And
we were
he's
doing.
just like, yeah, we got this section of like returns. Like, we want stuff that's broken and beat up. So like we spent all of our money there just grabbing. We didn't even know what pieces would be used where. We just took it all. And so there's so many things that we got that we didn't even use in the film, but that's where it got really fun. Where it's like, okay, this piece with this, and then we'll get the Darcy would like sew the garments and kind of combine things, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Medieval Depot.
Yeah,
I hope they start a chain.
it's
I
so
want one in
good.
North Carolina. All right. Well, look, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but congrats on the movie. I love it. I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do in the future. And is there anything you guys want to plug? Tell the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, so the movie is on Prime, Apple TV, anywhere you rent your movies. And then us, we're just on Instagram. So I'm just Matt Ninaber, and there's Jeremy Ninaber. And if you want to follow us, we're going to start posting our story about how to make movies. We've been so busy making movies that we haven't really told the story of how we do it, but we want to start inspiring people, because at the end of the day, we're just two guys in a farmer's field making movies. Like, we're not in Hollywood or anything like that. And I think my goal is to really inspire people to go after their dreams. So
that's awesome, man. And I know Death Valley is on Shudder. Do you have any plans to put A Night's War on Shudder?
I would love for Shudder to pick up A Night's War. So we'll see. If that happens, it's great. If it doesn't, then we'll keep going where it is. So we always throw our movies their way and see what happens.
All right, Shudder, get on it. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your time.
All right.
Cheers.